I asked some friends in my Discord server what jumps they think are the hardest, and I got pretty much the same 3 answers from everybody. 1, Neos, 2, 4-block jumps, and 3, everything. So in this video, I'm gonna be explaining those 3 things. Alright, let's hop into it with something real good. A consistent 4-block jump setup that requires no momentum. Absolutely stunning, isn't it? It's real easy and does not require any particularly good timing. You wanna know the trick? Alright, I'll show you. But just cause you asked nicely. Okay, for this trick, we're gonna need to know a little bit of a technical move, and yes, there is such a thing in Minecraft parkour. So this is something you've probably never heard of, nobody really calls it by its name, but you're gonna be using this occasionally. So this move is called a jam, and it's really simple. You jam down your forward and space key at the same time. Like that. A little tiny hop. And this is what we use at the beginning. So first, you jam while walking. It's important that you do not sprint. You just walk. The next part is going to require that you use a button to sprint and don't double tap. You can't double tap in midair. I'm double tapping in midair, not sprinting. And for this one, you need to activate your sprint while you're in the air. Unfortunately, you can't use toggle sprint either. For those of you who don't know, toggle sprint is actually a great tool. It's under accessibility settings, and then you change your sprint to toggle. But for this one, we're gonna need to have it set to hold, and we're gonna need to have it bound to the key of your choice. If you got tiny little baby hands and control is too far away, a lot of people use shift, and some people even use R. Onwards with the setup. Shift to the edge of the block, look straight ahead, jam W and space forward, and almost as soon as you're in the air, hold down your sprint key. Bam, just like that, you've made the jump. You line yourself up, do the jump, and as soon as you're in the air, relatively quickly at least, you hold down control. Or your sprint key of choice, of course. One more time. It's amazing. It's super consistent as long as you do press control on time. If you're late with control, you'll often fall short. And if you're early with control, you'll just leap to your doom. So anyway, that's my best trick that I have for 4-block jumps. Hopefully you'll struggle a little less with them. Give that a shot and let me know if it helps you in the comments. One more trick for 4-block jumps, and really all jumps, is to look at the block you're jumping off of. Looking down, like this, lets you actually confirm that you are going to make the jump, and that you are landing on the correct part of the block. Anyway, on to the next thing that people have trouble with. I mentioned a moment ago that there are more than one of these parkour tricks, like the jam, that you must master if you want to do difficult jumps. That's right, I'm talking about Headhitter timing. Oh yeah, boys. Let's check it out. So, people call this Headhitter timing, or HH for short, and it's very similar to the jam. The difference is that instead of pressing the buttons at the same time, that will obviously get you nowhere, you press W, or your forward key, exactly 1 Minecraft tick before it, or almost at the same time, but not quite. It even works when you've got something like a trapdoor over your head. Now, this is a very tight jump, but with Headhitter timing, it's literally the same. There is no difference if you do it with this method. Now, what exactly am I doing with my keyboard and my left hand? Well, I'll explain it. Similarly to how you slam down with both fingers at the same time to do a jam, like so, this one you do the same thing, but with a slight offset. You do the W key just a fraction of a second before. Like that. You hear? Can you hear my keyboard? Do you hear the difference? That's a Headhitter timing. That's a jam. If you're a beginner, I would actually recommend slamming your keyboard. Like, use some force, don't be afraid. You'll be able to do it softer once you've practiced more, but at the beginning, just go to town, within reason. So, to reiterate, shift to the front of the block. This is important. Shift to the very front, and then W and space in very, very quick succession. Like so. So much quicker than you're even thinking. One thing that this kind of timing will not do is this kind of jump, where there's either a trapdoor or a ladder that you're jumping out from, because this requires speed. You have to be already running to make it out from under these. So with these, you just have to time it. Look down at the block, know where you are, and jump at the last possible moment. But if you attempt head hitter timing on this, you're gonna hit the top. You're just gonna hit this thing. This timing is useful for more than just head hitters, actually, which is why I think the name is a bit misleading. I wouldn't necessarily call it that. I'd call it something like the timing that you do when you're standing at the very edge of a block and you need to get a good amount of speed to clear a good gap, but you don't have any room to... You know what? Maybe that's not a good name. Let's move on. One quick tip. Legitimus quick tip, go! In versions 1.15 and higher, the ladder meta is different. Do not shift onto a ladder. In 1.15 or higher, it is better to hold space, the jump key. So let's try that. Behold, you can hold space and move a good distance away from the ladder, and as long as you are within the ladder block, you will be going up. You can just blindly hold space and charge at it. It's easy. It actually makes it pretty trivial, because instead of having to hit the front of the ladder, you can just hit anywhere in the block that the ladder fills up. It's like aiming for a block of water. All right, so that's the head hitter timing, done and done. That's a useful trick. All right, next up we're gonna learn about the Neos, but before we get to the Neos, remember to... what did you think I was about to say there? What did you think? What words did you predict were about to come out of my mouth in that moment? I think you know the answer. If you'd like to do that, you may. But I'm not going to say what it is, because I know you know. You heard me start talking. I went into the YouTuber voice. Anyway, on to Neos. Let's do some Neos, lads. Actually, before we do Neos, I'd like to show you one thing that you do not want to be doing. A lot of people, when they first go into Neos, take it on like they're Sonic the gosh darn Hedgehog. They just sprint it at it and leap. They take a leap of faith and they're like, I can do it. If I hold the strafe key hard enough, I will make it around the block. And this is a valid technique. It can be done. It is much, much easier to thoughtfully, carefully approach the block, position yourself at your preferred distance, and then make the jump quickly and gracefully. How do I like to do it? These guys are a little bit more subjective because they're not actually as difficult as you think. I shift up to the very edge of the block, and then I like to jump a little past the center of the block. So if the center is here, I'm maybe back here, and then I will do a light jam, a little bit of that old space and W at exactly the same time action, and if it's a little bit off, if you head hitter by mistake, it will still work. But if you're wondering about the timing, that's pretty much what it is. So as for where you do want to look, just look at where I'm looking. See, I'm looking down so I can kind of see the blocks below me. I'm looking to the side so that I don't collide with this. You never jump from right up against it, because obviously you're gonna hit it. And there's a trade-off. There's a trade-off there. The further you are from the block you're jumping around, the harder it is to hit the block, but the easier it is to miss the jump entirely. Neos are all about the turn. You gotta go off and then you turn your camera. Raw strafing is barely enough. You could probably do it with a one block Neo, but turning your camera slightly inwards is essential. Try and make a nice even curve, jump off the edge while holding sprint. Do not double tap, but I would really recommend either using toggle sprint or using a button held down to sprint. So some questions that I could see coming up. Am I holding the strafe key? Yes, I'm jumping and I'm holding A. I am walking into the wall. And now, it's time. The ultimate, the most challenging jump that we are going to cover in this video, the double Neo. If you just want to Sonic the Hedgehog this bad boy, get as much momentum as you can, and just YOLO it, power to you. It'll work sometimes, occasionally. It can be done. I do have some tricks for when you have no momentum double Neos, but if you can get momentum, do. It's possible. When you have a good amount of momentum and some good room, it's just like a one block Neo, but it's tighter. Now, how about the infamous 2-block Neo, no momentum? You're not getting a running start on these bad boys. You settle down in here, and you gotta make this jump. Well, there is actually one surprisingly effective tip that I have for you, which is head hitter timing. If I do the old W in space that I explained earlier in the video, you will get significantly more distance than you would with a jam. So to reiterate, I prefer to jam to get around 1 block neos with no momentum. But for 2, you're pretty much required to do head hitter timing. Get up close to the block and look straighter than you normally would. Almost like you're just doing a regular 3-block jump. Almost like I'm jumping to a block here, and then I just turn into it. And of course, the final trick I've got to show you is that when you're jumping off something, if you want to fit into a small space, just hold shift. In 1.15 plus, shift makes your hitbox shorter. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that just the coolest thing ever? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching all the way to the end.